I can't believe it's been 8 months since Starfield released, and here we are with one of the largest patches they've released so far. It overhauls quite a few parts of the game, and it's enough to actually bring me back and get me taking a look at the game again. So we've got a massive overhaul of the map system, and this is very much needed. It's certainly going to help out anyone who loves exploring in the game. We got detailed 3D map surfaces now, both of the area you land in as well as the cities. Ship customization has also been expanded. You can now totally modify the interior of your ships. This allows you to place furniture or functional modules. There's also an option to create new ships with entirely empty interiors, and this allows you to decorate them completely from scratch. Now, if you've made it all the way through the game and you've got New Game Plus mode, you can now respec your character, and that is both in terms of appearance as well as the traits. So you'll be able to start out that New Game Plus with an entirely different character if you so want. There's also some massive changes to the difficulty settings of the game, and here you'll be able to really fine-tune the game right down to granular sand-like level. There's a lot of options there. There's also a new option for dialogue scenes. You no longer have to stare at the NPC directly in the face. Instead, you can have the camera panned all the way back. And then for the Xbox, there's a new frame rate target options which allow you to target at 30 frames a second, 40, 60 or even uncapped FPS. So that new map system. The overhaul aims to address one of the most persistent criticisms of the game, the lack of detailed and functional maps for navigation, especially within densely populated city areas and complex planetary surfaces. Now, you can divide this up into both pros and cons because there's certainly a bit of both here, but overall it's definitely a massive improvement. Now, on the pros list, we've got the enhanced detail and utility of the map. The updated maps now feature detailed 3D representations of terrain, buildings and other landmarks, and overall this makes navigation far more intuitive. Also, I personally think the map looks very nice. It's absolutely gorgeous, in fact. Ships are also identifiable on the map here. You can see them in orange, and this includes both your own ship as well as NPC ships when they land in cities as well as they land out there in wild environments. Now, when you're on the map, you won't be able to directly interact with anything. You can't click on any of the objects here. But what you can do is select them and place a waymark for you to actually head towards any locations you see on the map. Now, there are a few cons here, unfortunately, and some of those simply come down to the way the game is designed. For example, you can see that the map is very much tile-based. If you zoom all the way out, we can see the edges of the map. Now, this isn't necessarily a bad thing in and of itself, but some people may find it somewhat immersion-breaking. Another point, which is perhaps a con to some people, but I do feel it's a pro to me, definitely a positive thing, this one may be a little bit divisive, is the fact that everything on the map is now revealed. You don't have to go out there and look for it. Now, they don't get icons marked over them until you get relatively nearby to them, but if you scan around the map visually, just with your bird's eye view, you can pretty much identify every single object on that map. Now, for me, that is an absolutely great thing because it lets me know whether or not the object, the area, the building, whatever it is actually worth my time heading towards. Other people, however, may feel that this bird's eye view of absolutely everything may remove some of the mystery that the maps otherwise contain. Overall, though, I really do like this new map system. It's a massive step forward for the game and really shows that Bethesda have been listening to the community feedback. Now, one of the things that's been pretty neat right from day one with Starfield has been the ability to build your own ships, customize them to pretty much any extent you can imagine. Unfortunately, though, this didn't extend all the way to the interior. That now changes, though. With this May update, you can now fully customize the interior of your ships. So this mode allows players to transform their ships' interiors from generic prefab designs into personalized spaces that reflect their creative style. Now, the ship's decoration mode does offer some freeform item placement. It enables players to arrange furniture and decorations as they please, and in that regards, it works pretty much exactly like the Outpost customization system. So that means you can now decorate the interior of your ships with a whole variety of items, and that includes beds, toilets, galleys, and other essential fixtures and fittings, as well as more generic clutter to add that personality to your space. And of course, you can add functional modules as well, such as crafting benches and other such things. Now, the only downside here is that you can't remove, at least as best as I can tell, existing modules to the ships that you actually claim or that you actually own. So if they're already prefabricated in terms of interior design, you won't be able to change what has already been placed. But that said, there is another option here. The The update also includes the ability to create ships with empty HAB modules, and this provides a blank canvas for players to design their own ship's interior. It allows you to build things right up from scratch. So some nice options there. You can add to the existing ships or create one that has empty modules and build things up right from scratch. The only downside, at least for me, is I would love the ability to modify the existing prefabricated ships a little bit. I'd just love to move around some of the furniture that's already in there. But I guess we can't have everything, and this is certainly a big improvement of what we had previously. So a nice step in the very right direction. Now, over the past few months, I've had a few nitpicks with Starfield, and in many ways, these are the same nitpicks I've had with other Bethesda games. And this is the fact that many of the enemies are often bullet sponges. It can be a bit of a pain to actually kill some people. Not necessarily because it's hard, but just because I'm not a big fan of bullet sponges. So yeah, a bit of a gripe there, and it sounds like I'm being really moany, right? Well, here's the thing. This is all about to be rectified with this massive update, because Bethesda have introduced a new system that allows players to tailor their gameplay experience to their personal preferences, and it really does offer a granular level of control over various aspects of the game. So for example, players can adjust damage dealt by enemies and the damage they deal themselves. Both these can be adjusted separately. So this really is a flexible approach, and it really does overcome that problem I have with bullet sponges. And it doesn't necessarily have to make the game too easy, because you can adjust other areas of the game to compensate for that difficulty. Now, another interesting thing here is that when you adjust any of these settings, the XP accumulation will adjust accordingly. So if you make things a little bit easier, you'll get less XP. If you make things more difficult, you'll get more XP, and this is cumulative across all the settings. Resource management is another area where players can exercise control over these settings. The update allows for adjustments to carry capacity and the weight of ammunition. And this is pretty interesting, in fact, because the very early stages of the game can be very, harsh when it comes to the limited carry capacity. You can very easily go overweight very quickly before you've actually spent any perks, so this will help with that. Yeah, basically, you can adjust absolutely everything, and this also includes environmental hazards, as well as the need for food and the impact of harsh planetary conditions. All of this can be adjusted, and, effectively, you can adjust the game so much that you can more or less turn it into a survival mode game. And this means that the different planetary conditions will really come to the forefront, something that will really have an effect on your overall experience of the game. So yeah, in short, you can now adjust Starfield to suit your playstyle, right down to some very fine granular levels. Okay, so you remember in all the dialogue scenes where you basically get the NPC staring directly into the camera. It can be a bit unsettling, especially with the NPCs not having the best graphics out there. This has now had a new feature here. You can actually toggle that first-person mode off and look at the dialogue in the more traditional zoomed-out mode. This feature can be changed through the accessibility settings, and it means that dialogue will happen in a third-person perspective, which personally I feel is going to be a little bit less intrusive. It's one of those relatively minor things. It's a small update, a small change, but something that can nonetheless have a big change on the overall feel of the game. So yeah, it's one of those things which really does highlight that Bethesda are listening to feedback. Talking of which, one of the bigger complaints about the release of Starfield on Xbox was its limitation to 30 frames per second. Well, this has now changed with the introduction of a 60 FPS performance mode, and surprisingly an uncapped FPS mode as well. Additionally, there's an introduction to the new variable refresh rate mode, the VRR setting you might see in some of the settings there, and of course that does require a compatible display. So now players can choose between 30, 40, 60 or an uncapped frame rate, and that will depend upon the display capabilities of the monitor or TV you actually have. For those of you with 120Hz VRR displays, a new 40 FPS option is also available, which aims to balance performance with visual quality. So this is kind of going in between the full-on quality mode and the performance mode. Now, I haven't tried this out myself yet on the Xbox, but there is a great video from Digital Foundry, and I'll be sure to link that in the video description so you can check that out for yourself. Do take a look. So yeah, there we have it. Some pretty huge changes to Starfield. Many of these on the surface of it are pretty minor changes, we could say, but collectively they do dramatically improve the game, and they fix many of the core complaints that people do have. Coming up over the next few months is going to be the release of a bunch of other updates, One of these will be the release of the Creator's Kit, the Creation Kit, which will allow for improved modding, and one pretty big feature is the introduction of ground vehicles. Now, I'm very keen to see how this is actually going to work. Some of the landscapes are pretty rocky after all. They might be a little bit difficult to actually pass. It's also going to be interesting to see how we get in and out of the vehicle. Will we spawn into the seat in the same way we do with the ships, or will we instead actually climb in and climb out? Either way, very interesting to see how this is going to play out, and especially keen to see if that NPCs will also have vehicles as well, and maybe there'll be some ground combat from vehicle to vehicle. Could that be a little bit too much to hope for? Let's see how it goes. At any rate, thanks for watching this video all the way to the end. On the screen right here, you can see another video. Why not check that out? Thanks for watching. Take care, and I'll see you next time.